My name's Tim Pilcher. I'm the lead writer and editor on Brighton the Graphic Novel.
And I'm Paul Collicutt, and I'm the lead artist mentor on Brighton the Graphic Novel.
We started out with the project as we put a call out to any creators that we could find. The whole of the city, we basically said to people, submit some ideas that you have of a story that you'd like to say about Brighton. And we got loads and loads of submissions, and we started filtering that through for the best stories, either the best writing or the most interesting stories. So it was a combination of either of those, or ideally both. And once we'd kind of got the writers together, we started workshopping with them, and I did a one-day course teaching them the processes of comics. Some people had experience of working within comics, and others had never even looked at a comic. So I had to explain to them how you pace a comic, how you tell a story within pictures and with words, and get them to really understand what you can and can't do within the medium. And at the same time, we were looking for artists, because some of the creators were writer artists. They'd written their own material as well. But it was important for us that we didn't want to have them drawing their own stories. So we were deliberately pushing people by splitting them up.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because I think there's a couple of people who thought, oh great, I'll just do my own story, it'd be great. But this is a lot of what Queenspark Publishing do is about the collaborative process, get as many people from the community involved as possible, which is why we put a call out to quite a few. We've got 15 artists at Senna, but there's 14 stories, and that early thing, saying to those two people who'd written stories as well that no, you're not going to illustrate yours. I think it shocked them a little bit. That but it's been a much better process for them. They've produced much better work, and I think they've enjoyed the process as well, and they've probably got more from it than the others because they've seen it from both sides of the fence. They've seen what it's like to both have to work for a writer and also then to actually work with an artist as well. You're telling the artist this is the story, this is what you're going to do, but they've got an understanding then of what's going on and some of the problems that the artist might have. And vice versa, certainly the problems the writer might have as well.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that it was a learning curve for everyone, and that was the enjoyable aspect of it. Or well, there were many, but that was one of them. Was that it was getting them to think in different ways, getting them to structure their storytelling. I think it's very often if you're writing and drawing for yourself, you just kind of instinctively put things down. But here we had to make them write a script and actually think about the whole story and how it would be interpreted by another artist.
I think also actually mentoring them was interesting because, like Tim was just saying, how they've kind of realised that they have to work in lots of different ways to create the story. We had to work in lots of different ways as well. I couldn't say to the artist, I want to see all of you doing a certain set of roughs beforehand. We did like to see some idea of roughs, but I knew that some people would just be a scribble, a note, and some people it would be almost finished, and it was kind of a little bit of a leap of faith and a bit of understanding that artists work in lots of different ways. So they produce the artwork in lots of different ways.
I think one of the nicest things is the whole book project has been built on a basis of trust. I think it was the writers trusting the artists, us trusting them to actually get the material in on time and make it workable, and for everyone to build on that. So if there was a problem, they worked it out and moved forward, and we constantly were tweaking stories, and it was a real evolution right up to the very end. But that trust, I think, was at the core of the project. And again, I think for me, one of the joys of comics as a medium, it is collaborative. I mean, I say in the foreword of the book, that is one of the fun aspects of it, of working together, and that spirit and that camaraderie of working as a team, not just as individual pairs, but as a whole group, has really come up in the last year or so, doing social events and things like that. There's definitely a kind of a team gang, sort of vibe that's been going on.
Yeah, actually that has been really lovely. I didn't quite expect that, but it's been great working with Queenspark Publishing, and they're very keen. They've involved us a lot, and I've met their team, and it's great. And these are people who care about the books. They care about the city as well. And all of the creators did. I mean, all the creators gave their time for free. They've given everything for free, and the thing they get most about it is caring about the stories. And that's really come over in all their artwork and all the stories. And it's been a pleasure to work with them, really. Well, I did every Friday a Friday email, and I'd put together for the artists, and it would just be show some examples of the work, because I thought they're all visual people. They need to see that the project's coming on, that it's happening. So there'd be roughs, and even if it was all I had new, maybe it was just like 1 page a week, I'd lie. Now I can tell the truth. I'd lie and say, no, it's going great, it's fantastic. About half the artists met the deadline, the original deadline. We set the original deadline at a sensible date, but giving us enough expansion to know that I knew that we're going to go down to the wire with some people all the way, simply because of how much work they had to do. And we did go down to the wire. We had the final piece of artwork came in the week that we were going to the printer to get the final proof. I mean, it's finally going to. I think it's actually going to press today, which is
having
hurrah.
said that, we were still only about a month over schedule.
I know it was actually not too bad, was it?
I mean, and as again, considering how many people were involved, I would have expected that to possibly run over by a good sort of 5 or 6 months, but we actually only overran by a month, which is pretty good going in book publishing. I think on the writing side, some of the biggest challenges was people who had never written a comic strip before, and getting them to understand how you actually lay out a comic strip. So it was kind of taking through that process and explaining how comics tell stories, how they can explain that to the artist as clearly as possible, and make sure that they weren't kind of overstretching themselves. I think there was a lot of times where some of the writers were getting particularly over ambitious and sort of reining them back and saying, you don't have to put so much in, let the pictures do some of the storytelling. And there was initially that sort of edge we were talking about, letting your baby go, and I think some of them found that initially quite difficult, and it was explained to them, trust the artist and they'll come through, which of course they did. And again, once we'd got the original artwork in, it was a case of revisiting the script and seeing how the text fitted with the artwork to see if it actually flowed better. And so we did a little bit of rewriting with some of the text and some of the writers. So it was a constantly evolving process, So in terms of difficulties, nothing insurmountable, really.
I think for the artists, it was the same as Tim was saying for the writers. The biggest challenge was to get them to think, you're telling a story, it's breaking down into panels, it's all subservient to that. They did it brilliantly in the end. But some of them needed more help with some things. And I guess one of the biggest challenges for me was working out how much help to give certain people and how much to lay off certain people as well. Because some people, you just thought, well, we've chosen you. The biggest thing we've done is we've chosen you. We spent ages making our choice, but we chose you for good reason. And we trust you to do this. We think you've got talent, and we think you're appropriate to the story. So then you have to trust them to do that bit. And then there would be a few bits where I say, well, I can help you on this bit. But some of them needed very little help, and some of them needed more help than others. So it's getting that balance right. And then the big challenge was just to keep on top of them, make sure the work is there. And that's something I think you've got to do as the mentor. You've got to keep on top of all the stories. They've just got to keep on top of their one story.
Yeah. Well, one of the other, I think, important elements of being a mentor is just to instill that confidence. I think there were a lot of people that were unsure of their own abilities or their own skills, and it was to kind of encourage them and to say, no, actually, you can do this. We have the faith in you to do this.
I agree entirely with Tim on that. That's a really important point. I felt with some of the artists, they were really so good. And I thought, you just actually need to be told. The main thing you need to be told is you are great. Your work's really great. And I'm glad I didn't have to do a piece myself to show up against that. Tim very bravely wrote one of the stories.
I know, it's crazy. The interesting thing about it has been that, as we were saying, it's been almost 2 years, this project, but it doesn't feel like it. It hasn't been a slog at all. It's really whizzed by incredibly fast, and that's always a good sign that you're enjoying it, you're in the flow, the creative flow. And I think that's the best thing about it.
And also, one thing I didn't really expect, which I should have expected because it's about Brighton from all the different eras, I found out such a lot about Brighton's history. And I loved the talks we've done with Queenspark when Frank Flood comes on. It's fantastic. All his history talks, I think, well, I could listen all day to this.
Yeah. Sorry.
Brighton is a city which has a fantastic story to tell.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that came out from it for me was I was kind of vaguely interested in the history of Brighton, but this has kind of completely opened my eyes and has given me a real passion for Brighton's history, and has made me want to know more and find out more. And I think, that was also something that came through with all the creatives. They got that same buzz and that same interest. So they had a lot of fun, I think, digging out the history and finding these stories. And as you said, I mean, Brighton has so many stories. It was a little frustrating in the sense that, we've got a 256-page graphic novel. This is just scraping the surface of Brighton's rich cultural history.
Well, the important points to look at if you're thinking of doing a similar project, I think build enough time into it, then make sure you source good people to manage it, I think. And Queenspark were good. They built these days together. Then I wasn't sure how they were going to work, but we had the first meeting of the. We had a meeting with Tim had a meeting with the writers first of all, then a meeting with the artists, and we did little presentations for them. Then we brought them together at the library, and that was a very good day. And that was when there was a buzz going, and they were all split into groups, and you could just feel the buzz going around the room. And I thought, well, this is exciting. This is really going to happen. So create that buzz. Find a way to get people together. I think if you're not going to pay them money, you've got to get people and volunteers on board. You've got to create something exciting for them, and part of that is the social aspect, so they can meet other people, have a talk about it, and just open their minds up to different things as well. And then make sure you've got enough time to do it, and you know enough people to call in enough favours, I think.
Know exactly what you want to do and get some expert advice on board. It's very easy for a nice idea to come up without actually thinking it through and knowing what you want to do. So get someone that knows what they're doing and to talk that through. And just make sure people are enthused about it. The only reason this project really succeeded was because the artists and the writers were really enthusiastic and really wanted to make it happen. If they weren't going to be on board, then the whole thing would have collapsed and fallen apart, despite our cajoling and shouting and everything. But we never had to do that because they were really enthused. So I would say that plan, expert advice, and get enthusiastic people. Yeah. Really, I seriously think that what we're doing here is showing a great showcase of future talent that we'll see doing very well in the coming years. I certainly hope so anyway, because they deserve to be picked up and get a book of their own or do some stuff. There's some real emerging talents, and if nothing else, if we've helped give them a boost up and give them a platform to showcase their work, then I'd be happy with just that.
The most rewarding part really is the journey. You've got to enjoy the journey. The final product is testament to the journey was great.
I disagree. I'd say it's the end product. Because I think that in itself is the reflection of the journey. And I think
yes, it's true.
If we'd gone through this whole process and, everyone had worked really hard and done their best and everything, at the end we'd had something that kind of looked all right. It would have been disingenuous to all of those people's hard work. But what we actually have is something that everyone who's involved can really put their hand on their heart and be very, very proud of. And I think that in itself is fantastic. It would stand up against any graphic novel on the shelves today. And considering that it was all done voluntarily and in spare time and everything, that's a testament to all of their hard work. So I would say it's the end product rather than the journey.
I say that's why he's nailed it in the end. He is. You are right, Tim. Actually, if we had produced we had a great journey. We had a great journey, but we arrived at the station. It was a terrible station. I thought, oh dear.
Yeah, but both, isn't it?
But it was definitely something we looked at. I agree. Actually, to be honest, I was really proud. I'm really proud of what we've done. And it is going to stand up on the shelves really well.
Yeah.
Because it's made of really stiff card.